Howdy all, Wyrm here. Thancred Waters, Archon, Gunbreaker, member of the Scions of 7th Dawn and our steadfast ally. Thancred is one of the more unique characters in FF14, one who has had an eventful history and endured many trials, both physical and emotional. As you likely already surmised from the thumbnail and title, this video is to discuss a theory I've had ever since the end of 6.0. A theory that Thancred could learn to manipulate and use Dynamis in combat, and why this would be the most logical step for his development. First, let's go over some important events in his history that helped shape this theory. First trained as a gladiator, after a fateful encounter with Louisoix Leveilleur, Thancred studied in Charlian and took up the arcs of the Rogue, which included dual-bladed combat, stealth and subterfuge. The most significant event that led to me creating this theory, however, happened at the end of A Realm Reborn. After being framed for the death of the Sultana, the Scions fled into Uldah's underground passages, where he and Y'shtola chose to stay behind to prevent the enemy forces from advancing after the rest of their group. Y'shtola, in a last-ditch effort to ensure their survival, activated an ancient spell known as Flow, which is like an emergency teleport that sent both her and Thancred into the lifestream to escape. While Y'shtola got trapped within the lifestream, Thancred was able to emerge from it far from Uldah, in the wilds of the Dravanian Forelands. However, the use of this spell was dangerous, as Thancred soon found out. He learned that his travel through the lifestream had greatly distorted his body's aether, the main side effect being he lost the ability to manipulate aether entirely. Because of this, he can also no longer use etheric travel, or any sort of spell or ability that requires aether. Fast forward to Stormblood, Thancred spent a lot of time in the Empire's provinces. During his time there, he chanced to meet with Rostic of the Bolshoi Resistance, who taught him the arts of the Gunbreaker. Even though he was taught these arts, however, Thancred couldn't fully utilize them, as a key component of a Gunbreaker is using aether to infuse the Gunblade shells, which thus allows for the use of Gunbreaker's abilities and techniques. As such, he didn't use these arts until his soul was summoned to the First. During his stay on the First, he started to travel with Reen, who used her magic to infuse the shells of his Gunblade, allowing him to wield the Gunbreaker arts to full effect. This continued on through Shadowbringers, Reen at first taking the role, then later it was Y'shtola and Urianger who aided Thancred by providing him a steady supply of charged shells for combat use. This is also the case in Endwalker, and as of this video, Thancred still has no ability to manipulate aether. However, this proved to be more of a blessing in the end when they travelled to Ultima Thule. As soon as the party met Meteion, she used Dynamis to try and drown out their aether. While the Scions, ourselves included, were quickly incapacitated, Thancred seemed to weather these assaults far more easily, remaining conscious and thus was able to go on the offensive against Meteion. It was at this exact point that my theory began. We learned soon after that Thancred had wished with all of his heart, and inadvertently manipulated Dynamis as he struck Meteion. He poured his emotions and heart into one word and wish: survive. This wish was so strong, combined with Thancred's emotions, that it manipulated the abundant Dynamis on a massive scale, to give the entire region of Ultima Thule the ability to support life. Now, this is the important bit. Along our journey through Ultima Thule to reach Meteion, our friends sacrificed themselves to create a path forward for us using Dynamis. These take the forms of bridges and other paths to our goal. But none of these even reached the scale of Thancred's, who altered the entire region on a scale even Meteion was surprised by. My theory is this. We learned that those who have high etheric levels and affinity can't manipulate Dynamis, such as the Amarothians for example. We also learned that one of the reasons that Hydaelyn sundered us and the world into shards was to reduce our etheric levels, and thus allow us easier interactions with Dynamis. But quickly think back to Meteion's Dynamis assault on the Ragnarok. Only Thancred was left standing. Thancred can't manipulate Aether anymore, which has a very beneficial side effect of him being able to interact and manipulate Dynamis more easily than the rest of us. He's kinda like Meteion in a lot of ways. She was created by Hermes using Aether, but just enough to maintain her physical form. Thancred not being able to manipulate Aether became his blessing in Ultima Thule. After these events and our return to Aetheris, he may well have just figured out that he can now use an energy source he has full interaction with in new ways, the least of which being is he can now charge his own gunblade shells. I for one see this as the best way forward for his character on a creative level. But what do you think about this theory? Let me know in the comments and let's have a back and forth discussion. If you enjoyed watching this video, hit that like button and consider subscribing if you haven't yet to stay informed about the many videos I'll be creating. Thanks all, and now, as always, have a good one.